Welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman. Today, I got a real treat for you. His name is Perry Fowler, and he is the executive director of the Texas Water Infrastructure Network in beautiful Texas. Perry, say what's up to everybody.
Good morning, y'all, or good afternoon, I guess. It's nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing, man. So we're gonna dive deep into what the Texas Water Infrastructure Network is, but let's talk about Perry first, man. Let's talk about what I guess how you got your start in this whole infrastructure advocacy side of things, how you got your start in public works, how you got your start, I guess, advocating for the government side of things. So tell us about, what you did from high school all the way to where you're at today.
Well, when I was just kind of prior to high school, and this probably violated some child labor laws, but my dad was a commercial contractor in San Antonio, Texas. So I was out on job sites, and I started out sweeping up sheetrock and moving materials around, and then I started framing walls and ceilings and doing all that fun stuff in the summertime. And I kind of learned the business and the value of hard work. And so I did that for my dad, which I'll always appreciate from him. And somehow over time, I ended up on the policy side of things. And eventually that led me to Washington, D.C. And that's when I really kind of started working in that field after my college experience, which I've studied political science, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do with that. And it just happened that when I was in DC, there was an opportunity at a place called AGC of America, which is a national construction trade association. And I kind of joined that operation at the bottom, which I think is the best way to start just about any occupation. And I just got in and I worked hard, and I started getting involved in federal policy. Eventually kind of took over part of that practice with international construction and federal procurement. And eventually that led me to water, which is what really eventually led me here to Texas. But I kind of have construction in my blood, and I'd always enjoyed policy and government and history and philosophy and all those things. And somehow it all kind of came together working in advocacy for a nonprofit. And so even as a fifth generation Texan, I left Texas. I went to Washington, D.C. I was there for 8.5 years, starting in 2002, which is just post September 11th. Which was an interesting time to be there. There's a lot going on in the world. Things were happening. It was an exciting time to be there. I met my wife there. And then after my time, I got to a point where I was kind of ready to make a transition, and an opportunity presented itself in Texas to come down and do water kind of procurement construction policy here. And that's how I ended up back here in 2010. And now it's 13 years later, and here we are. So it's been a fun ride. Not what I planned when I was growing up, but that's how it works out sometimes.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
I love your adage on pretty much whatever you do, you start at the bottom, because you'll kind of learn that nuance that people at the top miss out on. The things that you're eating dirt. You're low man on the totem pole. Those things teach you a certain, give you a certain skin that when you get to the top of things, it helps you out. I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into, because these associations, there's a ton of them. There's an association for everything pretty much. And then we all know that the associations, that they have kind of a government Capitol Hill legislative type branch or type focus or push to it. So what do you say to the people, I guess, who don't really know what goes on that side of the association, because they're paying their association dues, they go to the local events, but they don't know exactly what's happening on the Capitol Hill side? Can you shed some light on what that is?
I don't think there's anything more important than the advocacy aspect of trade groups. That's why most of them got started. That's why we started TXWIN. That really is your voice. It's your opportunity to learn things, and it's your opportunity to directly participate in our democracy and in policy, which is a business person or a public works servant or whatever. We're all highly regulated. And so the decisions that are being made at your city council, your state capitol, and the Congress in DC and federal agencies, that affects how you do your business, how our lives, basically shake out in this world of infrastructure that we depend on. And I think there's a group for everyone. If there's not, then you should go out and start your own. But but it is something that's a valuable tool, and the networking aspects of it are important. And a lot of people, have different, ideas of what that association can bring for them and what they can get out of it. But the biggest thing, and I tell this to people all the time in our organizations and others, that it's really what you put into it. This is like anything in life, is what you get out of it. So, the people that show up are the ones that call the shots. I mean, that's how it works. And if you don't show, like, don't complain, and some people, can participate. You can participate in a passive way, and that's fine. And it's good to be able to support things. And there's a million great causes out there. So, I don't want to say stop contributing to these groups or don't do whatever, but I mean, to really get a full benefit, you have to participate. And that was one of the neatest things about being in DC with AGC, which was a fantastic national organization, was I got to see their members there involved. And it wasn't just the staff calling the shots. The members are there guiding things, participating. And as a staff person, you have to help create those opportunities, and you're the vehicle to make it work. But it really is about the people that you represent, and you really have to have kind of a servant's heart to do well in that role. But it's different. The cultures of all these groups are unique. They're interesting, and if you stick around long enough, you'll see some interesting things too, for sure.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
Selfishly, I go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was saying selfishly, I want to ask, because I'm a part of a good amount of associations, all kind of centered around public works and water and streets and stuff like that. And I hear about these events where people go to Capitol Hill and they, they have the fly-in or whatever. And what would I look to do? What should I look like? How could I guess, set myself up to ascend the ranks of an association or just build a better brand at these types of events?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just you participate. I mean, I think that when you demystify processes, that's when it really becomes a more tangible, activity, and you get a more better benefit out of it. I mean, all these things seem so mysterious, but when it comes down to it, it's like anything else. There are people that are making decisions. And that's the same for Washington, D.C. as anywhere else. And it sounds like we've got some guys doing some work over here next door. So I hope that doesn't get picked up too much. But it's important. It's important to be there. And like I mean, I always call it the light bulb, whether it's in a discussion we're having within a TXWIN meeting or somebody sitting in a room having a discussion with a member of Congress or the legislature. You get in this environment, and all of a sudden, like, your eyes open up and the light goes off, and you're like, wow, like, I get it now. Like, I get why it's important for me to be here. I understand what I can do, and you'd be surprised. And I mean, and I saw this happen all the time. We'd facilitate these opportunities for members to visit with, folks in federal agencies or Congress or whatever. And it's not the staff people. I mean, you might have some knowledgeable folks that are good at navigating the process, but it's the practitioners that actually are able to say, well, here's the simplest, most elegant solution to your problem, and this is how it impacts me and us, and it's how it's going to impact you. And we see that all the time in procurement policies and things of that nature. And I mean, yeah, you want to have the best legal advice and everything else, but like, just for your standard business person or entrepreneur out there, take those opportunities to go out and meet people and participate, because you're going to find that most groups, I think, are very willing, and they desire more people to participate. They don't want just the same people over and over and over again. It's important, especially as a young person, to be able to help to learn from your elder peers and your colleagues, because these organizations don't just show up. I mean, they're built over decades and generations, and so it really does matter, and it's worth your time too. I mean, and I say it again, I think there's so many tremendous advocacy professionals out there and trade association folks. And I know so many of them here in Texas and in DC. It's a great networking tool, and you really can make a difference. And I think that it's worth your time. So if you try to seek out opportunities like that, you should absolutely do it.
Sure. And one thing I love about associations and those types of events is that it's two things. One, I always leave energized. I like leave
Mhm.
with a certain bounce, like, oh, I can take on the world through like my association or through my business within this certain niche or within a certain industry. And then also the information, like the type of person that is willing to pay to join an association and volunteer and do good work are the type of people you want to be around, you know?
Right.
They're
Yeah,
givers, you know?
absolutely. And it is. I mean, just and honestly, I mean, information is a commodity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just the influence part. So, if you want to be closer to where the information is and where the action's happening, that's an opportunity to do that. Instead of hearing about it third hand or too late when it, might impact you in a way that you may not care for, which is why, again, I think that, being in any industry, having some type of an advocate that can be there to represent you, that you can participate in, I think it's really important. And
Sure.
honestly, it's not really something that I ever really considered prior to going to Washington, D.C., because I had this view of government and throughout my perception in life and then what I studied in college that it worked a certain way. And you like, it's like anything else, there's so much that's relationship driven, which frankly can be good or bad in some circumstances, again, which is why you want to be there, you want to be aware, right? Because there is the insider game. There's also the opportunity for people to participate, and it's a mix of all these things. And that's why that the legislative and policy process is kind of so fascinating. It's where everything kind of comes together, right?
Sure.
So that's why I really enjoy it personally.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk TXWIN for a little bit. TXWIN is TXWIN. It's an acronym for Texas Water Infrastructure Network. Let's say I'm explaining to let's say my 9-year-old niece or something, what problem TXWIN is looking to solve, or like who you advocate for and why. What would that be?
Well, the very short answer is that TexWin represents the people that are building your water infrastructure in Texas. And we want to make sure that they're able to do their job. We want to make sure that there's money to do these projects that provide water for us that we need to live. And we also are making sure that, people in the stakeholder community are working together, and that's really what it boils down to. And it's just, I mean, we're really just an advocacy organization that represents businesses that build water projects in Texas. And it was, this is something that I've been involved in since the inception of the group. And we occupy a space that's very unique, and we kind of formed the group to meet a need. But and that's one thing I'll always be so grateful for, when I started getting involved in water when I was in Washington, D.C., because it really wasn't front of mind for me, because I was really thinking about other infrastructure, and which kind of goes to show how I think the dialogue around water has changed. I think that people are more focused on it now. I was told that when I took my role at Agency of America doing water, that it was going to be more important. And it was something that people kind of have, I think, historically ignored, especially when we talk about construction or infrastructure. But a big change started occurring around 2007, and the term infrastructure started being used a lot more. And there was a lot bigger push to push water out there. But no, what we do is we speak for the construction water industry in Texas, and we work with the people that work with us and that fund our projects and that regulate us and that write the laws that govern how we do business and how our contracts are bid and solicited and all that stuff. We do the stuff that you need somebody to help you with so you can run your business and build projects that you don't want to be distracted
Sure.
with, you know.
Amen.
That's it's but I love it though. I love what I do. It's a
Good.
neat area to be in. I love being in water. It's awesome.
Gotcha.
Um, it's fun.
So you're the executive director. That's a big role, and I'm sure you got a lot of weight on your shoulders. What would you say to somebody who's aspiring to be an executive director of an association or even of TexWin, and they ask you like, what skill set should I have to be successful at doing what you do all day, every day? What would that one skill set be?
Listen to people.
Okay.
Listen. Uh, and consume information. That's I mean, that's really in order to be able to lead an organization, you have to be able to listen to people and actually hear what they're saying. A lot of people like to hear themselves talk, and aren't very good listeners, and that's a skill that it is developed over time. And I've had that issue myself before. Um, but it really is a matter of trying to understand what's going on around you and in the policy world that you live in, and not being narrowly focused, kind of trying to keep your eyes and ears open. I mean, that's really what it boils down to for me. And you also, we keep going all day on this, but you have to look at making opportunities for yourself and your people, because sometimes they'll fall in your lap, but there's a work ethic that you have to lead an organization. And like for us, we started this group from scratch, and it's a one-man show. It's me and our volunteers. And but the volunteers that are in our organization are doing a few $billion worth of construction work here in Texas and outside of Texas. So we're doing something right, I think, and we're making sure that we're heard, and that we're working with the people that our members work with, whether it's the engineers and the owner community or the legislature, or our regulating entities. So
Yeah.
it's but I didn't grow up wanting to do this. I had no, I had no aspirations to be a lobbyist in a trade association professional. It was not what I planned on when I was growing up. I don't think anybody does that. Now, if you do, to get back to your question, as I wander off, as I often do, if you want to be involved in the policy or trade association world, you take whatever gig you can get. I don't care if it's answering phones or writing letters for constituents, or saying hello to people, making coffee. There is no job too small, and you look at opportunities and you make the most out of them. And if you work hard, more opportunities will present themselves. My first job at AGC of America, I was stuffing envelopes, making copies, putting stuff together for conferences. And I had a college degree, and I'd been out for a little bit, but I was doing administrative work, and I just happened to work for somebody that wanted to give me more opportunities. And all of a sudden, I was in a position where I was able to demonstrate that I had skills that I could bring to bear, and that was something that I could build on. And especially if you're in a larger organization, the people that succeed are the ones that work hard, respect their colleagues, and do whatever job it is. I met a kid the other day that was working at a taco place here in Austin, and he was kind and responsible and like helpful. And he was like, well, this isn't all I want to do. And I was like, that's great. He's like, well, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to be in marketing. And I was like, well, that's awesome. You need to pursue that, but you also need to do the hard work. And well, it turned out that I knew somebody that was in the marketing department for his company. And I said, you know what? This young guy is working hard, and he should have a shot. But it was because of the way that he carried himself, and I could
Yeah.
see his work ethic. And man, that is, you
Yeah.
cannot beat that. Like you may not be the smartest person in the room, but if you work harder,
Mhm.
and listen and pay attention, then you will succeed. That's crucial, and that goes for anything, I feel like.
Yeah.
So
Gosh, I love stories like that. And then also appreciate you for sending the ladder back down. You could have just got your burritos, tacos, and went on your way. But you're playing in the present. You're being present in that situation, and you help somebody out there. I love that.
I think it's important.
So let's say I don't know how to phase this. Executive director of association in Texas.
Mhm.
I'm sure you've seen a lot of ups and downs, just whether in your career or with the association. Um, we need some stories. I need a story from Perry when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then also what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career. And the reason why I ask this question is because there might be others in your shoes, and they're like, "Oh, if Perry could get through that, I can get through what I'm going through right now."
Wow. Yeah, there are almost too many. I'm trying to focus on just one thing. I just look. All of this, I think, is trial and error, and especially when you have something that you're responsible for, you're going to make mistakes on the job, and you learn. And you hope that the mistakes that you make are ones that you can recover from, that they aren't too big. Really, when it boils down to it, and I don't think there's really a better way of learning than to fail. That's what kind of sets you up, because if you're not if you don't fail occasionally, then you're probably, not working hard enough,
Mm.
or being challenged. And when we first started this group, I mean, I'd formerly been with a big trade association, and I left there, and so I had a bunch of contractors I was working for that needed somebody to work for them, and that was the genesis of TXWIN, because we had a big issue, and we didn't succeed in our goal of changing the law. And I felt like that was a tremendous failure, and it was
Mm.
something that really deeply affected me. And I think that's, but it served to incentivize me to work harder and smarter moving forward, and reconsider strategies and all these things. And it's not a zero sum game, and that's kind of part of the policy world that you learn, and you learn it by experiencing it, is that you will fail more often than you will succeed, and
Mm.
successes are incremental that have to be built upon. And
Mm.
that's particularly relevant in the policy arena, especially here in Texas, where we put a lot of work into what basically boils down to 6 months of legislating, and it's even less than that once you take away all the rigmarole around the first few weeks or month of session. I mean, we pack a lot into a short amount of time, and there's big decisions being made, and there's huge implications for folks. And so, I mean, I guess if anything, I just would say that we're all going to fail. Don't let that stop you or keep you from coming back, because that is going to serve you well. It's like conditioning and strength.
Mm.
You kind of got to flex those muscles to build them,
Yep.
and get there. And so, I mean, I would say, just more than anything, don't get frustrated when you fail. Reevaluate, come back, work harder, be smarter, and be willing to look at your shortcomings, because we all have them. We all have areas where we can improve. I certainly do. My wife tells me that all the time. She's got a very long list. Um, and listen to your wife. That's another, just a good one there. Yeah, I know, right? But anyway, that's a little sidebar there.
Yeah.
Uh,
Gotcha. It's tough sometimes to listen to the wife, but I get I smell what you're stepping in.
mhm. Yeah.
So I guess this will lead into the next question for you. Is you're executive director, you got your college degree, you spent your time on Capitol Hill, you work for a big association. What do you do intentionally and proactively to keep showing up month after month, year after year, better and better and better, instead of just putting your feet on the desk and going, government, schmovernment, we're gonna figure it out? Like, what keeps that fire lit?
I mean, I love the people that I work for and what I do. I mean, the type of policy we're involved in, like I sleep well at night knowing that what I do helps provide, jobs and water and all these great things. And so, I mean, that always motivates me, and also just want to do a good job, but like I, I consume information as much as I can. I try to share what I think is important with people. I think that building relationships and building trust with people and being consistent is important, and being involved in policy. I mean, you have to have those relationships and trust, especially when you're counting on people to work with you to achieve goals, and to have people care about what you have to say, and you have to be present. You have to pay attention. You can't just check out, and just wait till the next go around. I mean, I'm sure that some people might do that, but it's just policy and advocacy is an active engagement that's kind of constant. And now, especially because it's not just about the personal part of it, it's about engagement on social media, about all these different things. Like, I mean, you really have to kind of have your wits about you. And I'm a little bit of an anomaly, because I've been a one man show here, for almost a decade, and I've been able to manage it. And we're getting to that point where I don't know how much longer, we're going to be able to do that. And like we've had, like, during COVID, we had the opportunity to hire a contract lobbyist to work with our organization. A guy named Adam Leggett with Leggett Public Affairs. And let me tell you what, I was like, we had extra money because everything shut down. Construction didn't shut down, but we weren't meeting. We weren't doing the things we normally did. And so we had some extra money, and I was like, well, geez, am I going to the hospital? Am I going to be shut down for weeks? Like, who knows? No one knew what was going on in the world. And so I hired this guy who was awesome and smart and capable. and we hired him again. And man, I wish I could have him all the time. But
Mhm.
that, and that's something like delegating, like when you can, God, you got to
Mhm.
do it. It's super important. So I don't know. I mean, our organization is getting to the size where I think we're going to be able to do that. But I do enjoy the closely held aspect of it, because I've been in the big national group, and then I was with the kind of the smaller state group, and there's real benefits to doing that. But like with the focus that we have as an organization, that really is, you know, solely focused on advocacy and the relationships we have. Like, we're not doing happy hours and golf tournaments and trying to sell people training and like doing all those things. Like, it's very focused on the work, and that's what's important to our members, and that's why they do this. And people listen to us and they want to work with us. So, which has been built out of, years of work and consistency and doing what we say we're going to do and being representative of our members' views and being consistent about it. So it's kind of like I say, it's kind of evolved, but it's been fascinating. I mean, this is not a
Sure.
traditional path here, or organization for that matter.
Sure.
But it was neat building something from the ground up, because I knew a lot of things I didn't want to do. So that was nice.
It's always the knots which get you going.
Yeah.
What would you say is the ideal avatar member for TXWIN? Like, who, like, let's say the whole world is listening to this, and like, who would you be speaking to directly to say, hey, join up, we're doing this and that, it'd be good for you?
I mean, where our members they're the respected, reputable contractors that people want to build their construction projects, and it started out mostly with Texas guys. And we've had some of the big national companies join in because they've seen what we do. But I mean, we want like the best water contractors in the state. We want the people that provide their materials, the suppliers and manufacturers. We got law firms. We want people that have a vested interest in making this business better and competitive and growing it, and being involved in something that is not the social aspect of what you get in a trade association. I mean, that's important. It is, and we have the opportunities to do that. But it's really about the policy. I want people in this group that are willing to show up to, when I ask people, what do we need to do with this procurement law that we're looking at? Like, how is it really going to impact you? How much do we need to promote, funding for certain types of water projects? Where do we need to put our emphasis? I want people that are going to be active. And I want people also that feel like that it's important for them to have a voice that don't think they have one. I mean, water has been the redheaded stepchild of infrastructure for forever. And so, when I was with the national group, I mean, the highway guys, they're the big guys. Same thing here in Texas. And that's what I came down to. I came down to the highway guys, and they wanted to do more water stuff. And but transportation, it's a huge market. There's a lot of money there, but I just it's interesting to have the perspective on things. Then you've got the commercial side, but again, everybody's kind of got their group. I mean, you've got somebody for everybody, and we started ours because there wasn't one. And sure, like different groups had water contractors in them, but they didn't have the level of focus that we do, and that's important for our industry. And that was a voice that was kind of missing for a long time, to be honest with you, because water's not like transportation. You can't just go to one singular owner like TxDOT and say, hey, look, we want to fund your programs and talk about how your contracting practices work and do all these things, because you can see kind of how that market develops and who's in charge of it. And it's a little bit easier to navigate. And look, the transportation advocates here in Texas have been amazingly successful. They've built a huge market. They've done a fantastic job. But we're focused on water, and I want the guys that want to stay in business and be here and be successful in this market, and gals, I want them to join TXWIN, and I want them to show up at the meetings and tell me what they think about things, because it's not about what I think or do, it's about what they need. And I'm just kind of a vessel for them to get things done.
Yeah, now I know why one of your main skill sets was listening to people. You pretty much get everybody together and you say, hey, what can I help you with? And then you take your orders from there.
Yeah. I mean, it takes some intuitive, skill sets too, and there's a leadership element, but it really is about executing what the job is, and if you don't have buy-in and endorsement from the people that you purport to represent, then you're just kind of spinning your wheels. I mean, I'm not just doing this for me, I if I I don't know. I don't know what I'd do if I don't know. I like what I do. I love my members, my clients, and we're also, it is everybody's personally invested in this, and I guess that's the other thing too. And we just had somebody join, had a few new members here recently, and
Nice.
I always tell them, it's about what you put into it. That's what you get out of it, and that's for everybody. And then again, you'll be in a meeting one day, and all of a sudden the light bulb kind of comes off. It's like bing. It's like, I get it. I'm like, okay, like now
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's awesome. I love it when I see that happen. It's cool.
gotcha. Yeah, a couple questions before we get you out of here. I guess like, what's one of the main legislative or policy that you're pushing now, and how it can help the members of TXWIN? Like, what's something that maybe we'll see it come across the ticker on the news that
Yeah.
you had your hand in?
Well, if you've been paying attention to the national media, which loves to talk about all the things that go wrong in our
No.
fantastic state that we're here in, we're in an arid state. We've had a lot of issues with water and lack of water, especially over the last several years, and these droughts that keep coming up. And I don't think I ever did more media interviews than I ever had before, than I did last summer, when things are literally falling apart. Like, cities are shutting down without water for days, and like, it's just all this stuff is happening. And it really, frankly, we, again, bad situation, right? But like Texas, we need water. We know that. We have great vehicles in our planning and identifying what our needs are. We're growing all the time. And so, like, what do we do about it? And so last session, there was a bill that passed, which was SB 28. Charles Perry, who's the chairman of the Senate Water Ag Committee, was a Senate author, and Tracy King was the chairman of the House Natural Resources Committee, was a House sponsor. And we basically worked with all the stakeholder groups that we work with in water and engineering and the owner community, and we helped to work on a new water funding program to help supplement what we're doing here in Texas, to try and eat away at that big dollar amount, that we have, that's, hundreds of billions of dollars of needs, and we just don't have enough money, and between the feds and even some stuff we've done here in Texas, which is, I think, really outstanding, we just don't have the capacity to go out and make these projects affordable, meet the needs, diversify supplies, all of that. So we went in last session and worked really hard on getting SB 28 passed. And so that's a bill that basically creates some new funding programs for water supply and addressing aging infrastructure, public awareness, like all these things, and doing so in a flexible way that allows our state agency that administers that, the Water Development Board, to kind of use that money. And it's got a component where we also managed to get $1 billion appropriated for this fund.
Nice.
Which is great. And $1 billion sounds like a lot. I mean, we could have used five, but still, that billion, we can leverage that into tens of billions, which is good. But we've got a constitutional amendment coming up here in November, and so that's really our big focus right now, is working with all the stakeholders out there to pass Proposition 6, which is basically putting, our fate in the voters' hands. And as much as, like, certainly this is a market opportunity for our members, we've got as much work as we can handle right now. That's great. It's going to make sure that that's there in the future, and we need this. But I mean, this is going to be one of those pieces of the puzzle that's going to ensure that Texas has adequate water supplies, and that we're fixing stuff that needs to be fixed, and doing it in a way that's hopefully more affordable for communities. And like, it's cool. I mean, I'm proud of the work that we did with our other stakeholder partners, and like, we're working with some folks to get this passed in November, and it's a huge deal, and it's an honor to be a part of that. And so that's like the next few months. That's really what we're working on. And so that's our big push right now. And it was one of the most satisfying professional accomplishments that I've had. I mean, I've helped pass a lot of laws and write a bunch of laws and do a bunch of things, but I mean, this one was it was a big one, and I think that it provides a foundation for us in the future through this program to be able to direct more funding towards water. And I think that, we need voters to show that it's a priority for them and that they understand that. And again, like I see an increasing awareness and acknowledgement that water issues are important and that water supplies are important. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of circumstances over the last few years where entire communities have lost their water, freezes, shutdowns, pipe breaks. I mean, you name it, we've got all that. But I want the public to be confident that we're providing public entities with funding that they need that affects their quality of life. And I want them to think about how important that water is through their entire course of their day. And you really, I don't think you appreciate it until you don't have it, or if you're a practitioner. And that's one of the hard things for people in any particular interest group, sector, or whatever, especially for advocates, because we're so used to talking to each other. Talking to the public's a different thing, and we get very siloed. And it's the guys that are down with the city are focused on doing their job, and the engineers want to do their job, and we're all talking to each other and all this stuff. Talk to other people. I mean, that's important. So hopefully we're able to get the message out to folks and get that done. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I really am. And we'll get it done, but I hope it's a big margin. I want to see a big victory to see. So the state says, hey, look, the voters care about this. We need to put more resources into this, make a better, more outstanding long-term commitment to water. So
sure,
that's the big thing right now, for sure.
Gotcha. Let's say Perry's commissioned to put an ad on the Super Bowl, or TXWIN is, you're going to have a Super Bowl ad. What message would you want to get across to America about water in Texas? What would that be?
Well, I think that Texas is the driving force of the economy, and if our water infrastructure and water supplies are not safe and secure and dependable, then it really does put us in a bad position. And I'd love to have a more affirmative message, like, hey, water's great, we love it, let's get wet, so whatever. I don't know, but it just, I want people to understand how important it is, and it's something that's very tangible. I mean, think about every time you use it throughout the course of the day. And I wish I had an awesome Super Bowl commercial and I could put it on there. I just tell people to go out there and vote for Prop 6, ensure water for your future in Texas. I mean, that's what this does. And again, it's just one tool in the toolbox, but it gives us more access. It makes this stuff more affordable. And I wish that people understood how expensive infrastructure was and how complicated it is, and that it's not getting any less expensive or, less complicated. Maybe that needs to be part of that dialogue too. I don't know.
Sure.
And I just hope the Cowboys can be in a Super Bowl. But you know what? I've learned to be disappointed now for over 20 years, and I don't know.
Well, you still got Dak Prescott. You just got Trey Lance from San Francisco 49ers. So something's happening over there. Let's see.
Oh, goodness.
Something's happening. All right. Let's say I'm coming to your part of Texas. Not sure exactly what city, but I'm coming to your part of Texas. I text you ahead of time. I'm like, hey, Perry, where can I go to get the best burger in your part of Texas? Where are you going to say?
Well, if you come to visit me, I'm going to take you right around the corner to a place called Top Notch. And Top Notch was founded, I think, in 1972 or 76.
Okay.
And they do flame broiled, charcoal cooked burgers. And if you've seen a movie called Dazed and Confused, that's where they rode around in the parking lot when they were doing that over there. And it's kind of like stepping back in time. And the best day to go is on the second Saturday of the month, because that's when they do the old hot rod show. So you can go over there, get a burger, see all the cool cars, have a cold beer, and it's fantastic. But I will tell you that this is with an asterisk. The best burger in Texas is at Chris Madrid's in San Antonio, Texas. It's not in Austin. It's in San Antonio. And when you go, you have to get the Macho Tostada burger, which is refried beans, tostada chips, and cheese. And it is the best burger you will ever eat in your entire life. So that's my asterisk there. So if you go to San Antonio, go to Chris Madrid's. If you come to Austin, we'll go to Top Notch.
All right. I love it. All right, Perry. Thanks for hopping on the podcast. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Any final words before we get out of here?
Uh, just care about other people, be considerate, and listen, and you'll do well. And I think that we need more of that in the world right now. So hopefully, an act of kindness and supporting somebody will come back on you, because that's a good energy. And that's my kind of hippie Texas cowboy construction stuff right there. Let's treat each other well, y'all. We can do this. So that's what I would say, and
Sure.
try to have some fun every now and then too.
Love it.
That's
Never thought I'd
important.
hear hippie and Texas cowboy in the same sentence, but I get what you
There's
said.
only a little bit of that, but I like to keep the universe flowing in
There
good
we go.
here, right? So
There we go.
anyway,
All right. Well, Barry, again, thanks for hopping on. Go TCU. And this has been the Public Works Podcast. And thanks everybody
yeah.
for